This is Neil Monins from Wine. I'm here with Geoff Harner. He's from Failla Wines. We're here to talk about how wineries can drive marketing using email. That's just one subject we'll talk about among all the many other things that wineries have to deal with in this environment. Geoff brings hands-on experience and practical ideas that any winery can apply. He's been doing his job for a number of years, but I'll let you do the introduction.
Sure. Again, Geoff Harner, Director of Sales and Hospitality for Failla. I've been there more or less for the past 14 years, a little hiatus in the middle part of that. And when I came on board in 2011, there wasn't a lot of direct-to-consumer, and so it was kind of at the right time to catch them on an upswing, and I put a lot of the infrastructure in place to help them be successful in that category. So.
And how large is the team? How many people are you working with?
Right now, it's on the direct side, it's just 3 people. And then we have a couple of folks who do like office admin work. And then our national sales team, our global sales team is just 2.
Okay.
So a very small team.
And then in terms of Failla, just so we give other wineries an idea of how large the winery is, any case production, those kind of numbers.
Not huge. I mean, in a big year, maybe 15 to 18,000 cases.
Okay.
So,
and then you have a lot of different varietals, a lot of different brands, SKUs, right?
Exactly. Oh God, every inventory is always fun. We have, I think, 9 or 10 different varietals we work with. Largely Pinot Noir based is the main. But then our owner is a very curious guy, so he has a lot of other things that are sort of smaller production elements that we're testing the water with, or things that he likes to drink himself.
And then you're in not just Napa Valley, but other...
Sonoma is predominantly.
Sonoma
Costa.
But you've got Oregon,
Chardonnay.
right?
And I was just going to say, I actually just got back from a trip to our Oregon property last Sunday.
Okay,
so
great.
yeah, we've pretty evenly split. It's about 2/3 production is down here. The other third is from the Oregon property, which is now all estate, which is really exciting.
Okay, great. And then in terms of email marketing, how has that changed from when you got there back in 2011? Or...
Sure, yeah. When I got there was virtually none. It was all just responses to emails that would come in. And then when I took over the DTC side, we started working with MailChimp and other kind of campaign directed email services that just helped us reach people more quickly and in more targeted ways, but also with just better content, better ways of sending things instead of just like a Microsoft mail merge, for example.
Yeah. So. And then is the list segmented out? How do you treat the list today?
Yeah. So in the early days, we used to be super fine grained, like, oh, this person's from, Dallas, Texas, and they like to open the email at 9 a.m. And so we used to be like hyper vigilant about that. A little bit less so these days, just because we looked at how much time we were putting into that. Because Failla being a small team, I also host tastings. I also do a lot of other things that aren't just email related. And so we just had to look at like what's the best use of time. And so we essentially have done away with just paying a lot of attention to our hyper segmentation, and mostly the focus is on, okay, is it the same people opening? Is it better at a certain time of day or not? So we look at kind of broader metrics, and then we kind of base off that. And we haven't noticed any downturn in sales as a result of not segmenting. But again, that works for us. We're a very, very small team, and we don't send out like thousands of offers per year. So.
Yeah. But you're sending them out at certain, like, I know I can expect a Sunday email from you.
Yeah. So the Sunday thing is actually interesting. And I don't know if this will get me in trouble for saying or not. I didn't really pressure him all that much, but Jordan is our owner. He's also our farmer. For a long time, he was also the daily operations man. I mean, he did like everything for the brand. And now we've got people who do lots of other those things, including daily winemaking operations. A wonderfully talented winemaker named Savannah. I always wanted him to do like video marketing because he's such a good speaker and has a just wealth of knowledge of all things winemaking, Napa history, Sonoma history, French history. I mean, remarkable human in that sense. But he never had the time or never really had the interest. And then COVID hit. I wasn't working for Failla during COVID, but when COVID hit, kind of one of the best ways to reach your customers directly was through that direct interface. So we started doing videos on Vimeo or Vimeo, I don't know how you pronounce it, and they would just de facto, for some reason, started sending them on Sundays. I don't know if that's because they noticed they got most opens on Sundays. Historically, that's not a day that I'm thinking about purchasing wine, but it seemed to work. And so they just kind of kept up with that. And when I came back to work for the brand in 2023, we just kind of kept doing it because that's just what people are now used to. So, we're constantly rethinking if Sunday makes the most sense. We still generally follow our release schedule. And I know we've emailed about that a little bit as far as like our spring release and our fall release. And then we have some other special things that we do during the year. But the Sunday thing is mostly just out of a pattern and habit and expectation of our customers at this point.
Okay.
It's not because we thought like, oh, 26% open on Sunday,
Yeah.
and, 25. In fact, a lot of times when I send emails afterwards on Tuesdays or Thursdays, we actually get better open rates. I don't know if that's just because then during the week people are busy and they're focused on task completion.
Yeah.
And so they're just more inclined to be like, oh, that's something I gotta check off. Did you order the Failla? Did you? Okay, great. So, so some of it is that we try not to pound people with it. I mean, once a week is already a lot of emails, 52 emails or 51 emails a year.
Yeah.
Plus the resends that we'll do sometimes to retarget, but not all of them are sales emails. Not all of them. Some of them are just plain informational, and we try to leave a nice big gap in between what we would imagine to be our main sales initiatives, because we don't want to you want people to buy wine all the time, right? But you don't want to just shoot the proverbial wad a week before your big release goes out, and then you're kind of stuck with your current releases. So
yeah. And then when you think about your email list, do you have goals per quarter, per month? How does that work?
Sure. That's largely tied into how much visitation we're getting and how many of them are
and visitation to the site?
To the tasting room.
Exactly. To the tasting room, okay.
Yeah, which is conveniently about 5 minutes northwest of here. So it's largely determined by that. We're very communicative when people come in. If you're joining our mailing list, we are going to market to you. We don't say that bluntly, obviously, but as far as the list growth and maintenance, I don't really have goals other than if people do unsubscribe, I do try to dig deep into their history. Like, are they a new customer? Are they an old customer? Try to find out a little bit more why they're maybe no longer interested. And honestly, what's remarkable about our emails and our customer database is most of the time it's people that have never placed an order before that are unsubscribing. And so they weren't the interested ones to begin with.
Yeah.
So I worry a little bit less about that.
So you're gathering the email addresses from the people that are visiting, and then what about for your existing subscriber base? You're telling them, hey, forward this along to friends, or you're pushing it that way? Okay.
Yeah, we're actually looking at, in the next couple of months, changing a little bit of the messaging. Just when people see the same format over and over, they eventually kind of go, okay, I've seen that. Even if it's new information, if it looks visually the same, right? They're going to flip, skip by. And so probably in the next few months, we're going to just address that a little bit, try to tighten it up a little. It's just one of those things. There's so much information to give people sometimes. Like, people place an order. Okay, well, that's like a cascade of potential shipping or not shipping events that you have to explain to them. And, it's 5 sentences in an email. Nobody's reading 10 sentences in an email these days. So if that's half my email verbiage, it's like, oh, God, okay. So we're just thinking about ways to condense that a little bit. But with the current list, it's mostly just how do we keep them engaged, interested, and honestly, one of the things that I noticed as our viewership went up with the videos is, Aaron is an owner-operator, which is unique enough, but people really do like hearing him speak and seeing him walk the vineyards that he's farming every day.
Yeah.
And so I know a lot of people, tune in for that. We're not getting tens of thousands of views or anything, but we're getting a significant chunk of our membership who, actually had a guy come in maybe a year or so ago who had never placed an order before, but he was on the mailing list. And he was like, I'm a pilot. I heard about Aaron because he's a pilot. I started watching the videos. I didn't care about wine. He left with 3 cases of wine. So sometimes there's that slower build. But so it's just, how do you keep them engaged rather than seeing okay, Failla sent us another email, skip or, moving on.
Yeah.
So my goals are largely around that. It's not how do I increase? Because the increase is going to come based on they had our wine at a restaurant, they joined our mailing list online, or they came to the tasting room, experienced our hospitality, and signed up that way.
And then what about converting from, I'm sure you have a club too.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
So then partially the email list, you want to convert those people to club.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. So those we do have to be a little more targeted and segmented with. The reason we launched our club, actually, and that was an initiative that I put out 12 years ago or so, is we had a lot of people who come in and they're just club people. They just don't want to think about placing an order, having to be selective. So you're leaving money on the table by not doing it, right? And so we did it, and we have, a lot of people that just aren't club people, and they want to be very precise with what they get, and that's fine too. And so we don't want to over market to them hey, join our club. If it's been Failla's 27 years in business, if for 22 years you've been a customer that's never been a part of the wine club. I don't want to bombard you with club emails. So that's where I'll get a little bit more granular with segmenting and making sure, like, okay, they've never been part of a club before. Maybe they placed a few orders, or they placed enough orders over the course of a year where it's like, hey, dude, take advantage of the club benefits if you're already ordering this much wine. And so, you look at those metrics, their order history, their lifetime value, their yearly value, and then whether or not they've been marketed to in that way before. And if they have and they haven't said yes, I'm not going to keep knocking on that door, at least not as aggressively. Whereas with the newer folk, the folks that are just in the tasting room that are like fired up about the brand, because, and I don't want to say this to denigrate any of my lovely neighbors, it certainly isn't meant to be that way, but we have a lot of people that leave and they'll email us in 10 days. We had the best experience of our whole Napa trip with you guys. And it's so obviously wonderful to hear that. But those are the people where it's like, oh, well, if you're that far away from your experience and you remember it and you're thinking about us, like, yeah, we should start a conversation. And then by 3 or 4 emails in, it's like, hey, what do you want to do with us here?
Yeah.
Do you want to get the wine more routinely? Do you want to
so when you terms of that segmentation, you're not, I'm assuming you're not doing that one-on-one. You have a group of people that you can segment and then send them separate emails that talk more about the brand. And so explain that, like the segmenting you do for that.
Sure. Well, I mean,
and is that still all done with MailChimp?
MailChimp, yeah. Okay. Though, like I said, we're probably, sorry, MailChimp, probably moving on in the next couple of months to something that's more internally housed. Originally, the system that we worked with for online and e-commerce sales didn't have a robust email system. Yeah. And so we needed MailChimp. And then MailChimp has just become this thing where it's like, you pay your $300 and you...
Companies do tech stacks for a reason. There's not one company that does one thing well, and you have to have a CRM system separate than an email system. Right. And a mail sending is another company too. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, no, it really is. And
there's companies that try to do everything, but again, you've got to be
they do lots of things really poorly.
Yeah,
right? Instead of like, and this is where I think to that point, like the hyper focus is probably a good thing, because at least the core things you need, you're going to get. Like the system we're using currently, they have a reservation system. It works. We use it because it's not more money. But there's obviously, they thought about it about this much, and then they just kind of stopped.
Yeah,
and that's
they're not improving upon it.
Yeah, exactly. And ditto with their online or their email and marketing system, which has really good internal views because it's based on the customers that are connected, but it's also got some roadblocks that make it really frustrating to work with, and in a sense impossible to be productive with.
And when you're segmenting, with the example you gave, somebody just came to the winery, they had a great experience, they emailed you, and I understand some of that's probably you're going to personally go back and forth.
If they email us directly.
But you have a group that you could put them in of like, early,
Yeah, so their sign up date or their acquisition date, I don't know how everybody's email system would call it, but like, when did we collect their email address? What was the result of their next couple of weeks or couple of months of activity? Are they opening our emails? Are they not looking at our emails? Have they placed orders? Did they visit the tasting room? So there's all these different lines that of course you can click in to kind of get that small group. And if they hit enough of those attention points, then you go, all right, cool, I might even, depending on how many people it is. I mean, 10 years ago when it was, 100 people a week, I'm probably not sending them all individual emails. But now that it's fewer than that, the personal touch, I think, goes a little bit farther. And that's, if I send 10 emails in 20 minutes that are copy and pasted from a format, but it comes from my email address, not the MailChimp system. Then my segmenting gets me that list. And then I just go, okay, cool, I'm going to send all these people roughly the same email, but it's based on their most recent behaviors that seemed positively inclined towards the brand.
Okay. And in terms of emails, so you've got the regular Sunday email that goes out, and then what other emails do you send, and for what occasions? Because there's a ton of events happening in the Valley. There's all these reasons to email people.
Yeah, exactly.
So what do you do?
So if we do special events, the one I was just at in Oregon was our first ever Oregon membership event, which was a lot of fun. If we're pouring at, like Aaron just did a wine dinner at Madcap in Marin, which is a fun little restaurant. So that's where we'll be a little bit more targeted to that zip code, right? Because people in Alabama, they're probably not going to fly out for it, though we do have some customers that probably would, now that I used Alabama. But there are non-sales reasons that we like to reach out to people. And sometimes the Sunday email is that. Like June and July, we're usually a little more backed off with how aggressive we are with selling, because number one, you can't really ship during those months, or if you do, it's super expensive to do so. And customers just don't want to hear that. So we're like, cool, here's a few wines that we have available. They're fun, they're delicious, go nuts. But the main kind of push for our emails are our spring release, our fall release, and then we do a May release and an October release, and then like a holiday release. In fact, this might tie into one of the questions you might want to ask, but in May of the past 2 years, we have a vineyard that we work with called Kiefer Ranch. And 10 years ago, I'm a fan of old movies, and I specifically think old propaganda movies are kind of funny. So you may remember Reefer Madness. So obviously it was about marijuana, and it was this crazy movie if you actually watch it. But some of the artwork is super fun. It's all public domain. It's like 10 years ago, I was like, hey, Aaron, we have Kiefer Ranch. And I like, jury up a t-shirt and call it Kiefer Madness, and, be funny, right? Well, so people still talk about that like 10 years later.
Wow.
In fact, we did an event at Cadet Wine and Beer. It was about as rowdy as one of those wine pouring events I think that I've ever been to. So anyways, that had a lot of cachet. And so we had a pretty deep library of Kiefer Ranch wines. And so each of the past 2 Mays, we've done a special library release of Kiefer Ranch Pinot and Chardonnay, both fantastically age-worthy wines. And since we don't have access to the vineyard anymore, our customers really like it. So that's kind of taken out of the main release and put into this special hyper-focused release. And it's always kind of a gangbuster sales event, which is fun. Yeah.
Now, in terms of results you get from the campaign, so what are you excited about in terms of open rates and click rates when somebody interacts with links?
Sure. It's interesting because a lot of it is dependent on that. We've kind of conditioned our customers to see us in terms of spring, fall, and the special releases. So those are way higher than what we send out on Sundays. Sunday, we get like a 50 to 60% open rate if we just send one email. If we resend it, then we'll get another like 20 or 30% of the original non-openers to open it up. So like pretty good. And I think that's above whatever industry average, however they measure that, I don't know, MailChimp gives us. And then if it's a sales email and it's around new releases or those like special library releases, the standard 10 to 12% of those opens are people that are placing an order, large or small.
Yeah.
And so, that could be, depending on the wine's release, that could be a really, really big day. It could be a really small day. But generally speaking, if you've got, I'm just pulling numbers out. These aren't our numbers. But if you email 10,000 people and 1,000 people open it, then you're going to get 100 orders. Is kind of what my expectation is.
Okay.
And just what I've seen over the course of our time in doing this since I started in like 2012 or 13, whatever it was.
Yeah, I guess it depends on how clean your list is, because when I started Wine Release back in 25 years ago, back in 2000, my career is advertising, and I always had publishers talk about, oh, we've got X millions or 100,000 people on their list. But I'm like, well, have you requalified that? Right. Because in the magazine world, specifically for business magazines, you have to qualify every year. We're sending you this for free. Fill out this information, say yes, I still want to receive it, and then BPA would audit that. So I had the idea of, like, with Wine Release, I'm not making money off my subscribers. So I would ask them, okay, you need to let me know that you want to receive this. And every year I would lose 25%. And that's how it is. Because it's just people that, they receive the email, then they don't, then it probably goes in their spam or something else. So you want that audience. But for you, when every subscriber could mean a little bit of money, then it's like the question of, do you keep those people on that are dead? And I receive, I get over 3,000, subscribed to over 3,000 different emails, because that's how I get my data for Wine Release. And I do see every once in a while, I would say of those, small percent, 1%, 2%, that they send me an email saying, hey, you haven't purchased from us. Do you still want to stay on the list? And then I've got to reply back, yes, keep me on the list for your release data. That's why I'm not purchasing. But it's good that they're doing that. And I also wonder if they still remove me from the list or not. Yeah.
Totally. Pre-2020, if I hadn't heard from anybody in a year, 2 years, and you have all that data based on their open rate and their response rate and their order rate, I'm probably going to shunt them off into a different category that I don't market to. And part of the reason for that is MailChimp, you pay based on how many subscribers you have in your audience. And at a certain threshold, it just, it saves you, a couple $100, which turns into thousands per year, a couple hundred per month, that is. If you or getting rid of those people. But at the tier we're at right now, there's less of a reason to do that.
Yeah.
And for me, like, here's a good example of that. I just had a guy 3 days ago. What's today? Friday? Yeah, on Tuesday. Spent $500. Hadn't ordered since 2020. He's like, literally said, thanks for keeping me on the list.
Yeah.
I hadn't been in a place to order wine. So, there you go. So there's a reason though, I think, keep them in even if it affects a relatively, like, here's a good thing with, you're a soccer fan, right? Or Premier League football?
Yeah.
No? Yeah. Well, so David Moyes, former coach of West Ham, Alex and my favorite team, was quoted once when he'd won a game like 3-1, and they're like, well, the other team had 80% possession. He's like, yeah, but we won the game. You've just given me a totally meaningless statistic.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and this I think goes back to your earlier point a little bit, open rates and click rates and these percentages, they're cool to see, but if they don't translate to anything meaningful, or if they don't give you the results that you're looking for, then it's a number.
Yeah.
So I think people get too excited about, like, we used to have this happen all the time, man. People would call the winery, hey, we've got a list of like 10,000 wine enthusiasts, and they would make it sound like they were from Wine Enthusiast magazine or whatever. And so your what do you call it? Scam illiterate person might say like, oh my God, 10,000 wine enthusiasts. Yeah, I want to market to them. And then you buy a list for 5 Gs and nobody orders anything.
Yeah.
And you're like,
and also get marked as spam too.
Yeah, exactly. And so then you're hurting yourself in two different ways.
Yeah.
So when it comes to the those percentages, a lot of them this is like the really hard thing that a lot of people don't like to do, which things like ChatGPT or whatever AI system you want to use can actually be really useful tools just for pulling this data out. I spend a lot of time just analyzing like who these people are. And again, we're not, 250,000 case producer with all those different people. Like, we're not prohibited from doing that because of time. But if I do have time, and this is what I was going to say earlier, sorry, June and July, historically pretty slow months for DTC. People aren't visiting here. They're going out on vacation with the kids. It's summer break and all that. So we hit it a little less hard during that time. June and July are usually the times when I have more available, like, just human resource to look through all of my data and see who it is on an individual level, which again is really helpful because sometimes, I mean, there are people, and part of it is because I've been in the company a long time, but sometimes I haven't heard from this guy in 3 years. I'll just send them a little email like, hey, how are you doing? Blah, blah, blah. Not trying to sell them anything. I don't say that, obviously. If the conversation goes that way, great. But again, if you do that 10 times a day for 60 days straight, you just emailed 600 people with a personal touch that has a much higher, we'll say open or click rate that you're maybe not measuring. But it is, of course, much harder work. And as humans, we're not interested in our own failure, and a low response rate makes it seem like a failure. So I think there's hesitancy to do. It's like the same thing with phone sales, right?
Yeah.
If people don't want to be told no on the phone, even if it's a good interaction, that builds something towards the next interaction.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I struggle with that too.
So when you have that audience, again, back to the segmentation, like of people that have visited Failla, then that is marked in your database. And then you can say, I want to send an email to these people, because if you have an event coming up, you send special emails to the people that have already been, or even that they've been on your website and they've clicked to visit. You can that allows,
because they're giving us at least an email, first name, full name, and phone number. So we have that, and then we do text marketing too, which is helpful. But that's less aggressive as some other places that I've seen, and I'm still kind of getting used to it myself, which is nice. But the for those groups, we've always approached it from the people that like, we have 2 member parties per year at our property here, and we want those to be the people that are always purchasing. If it's a bottle, it doesn't matter to us. It's like you're showing that you're supporting us at least a couple times a year. So we don't selectively segment other people out, but we do want to make sure that they're at least opening it. So my thing with that is when we send the invite out, like, hey, number one, you have to have placed a purchase, an order recently. But I'll follow up with the people that I personally know you'd usually come, that I saw open the email. And I'm like, hey, dude, if you do RSVP, you're going to get boxed out because, it's filling up pretty quick. So some of it is just paying attention to that list that you've segmented based on what you think is going to be best for your company. And I think we tend to look at financial success a little too assertively. And I know it sounds kind of counterintuitive, but again, when you're in a downtime, like goodwill goes a lot farther than in other times. And I'll bring up the point of the guy who just placed an order a couple of years ago. I think he probably lost his job because of COVID, didn't have money for wine. Luxury beverages were one of the first things to go. And at his first opportunity to buy wine again, he came back to us. And it's because we're keeping that relationship going one way or another.
Yeah.
So.
Okay, and then when you're sending out these emails, I'm sure you have some that have more that resonate more with your audience than others. So you're measuring that, and how are you measuring it? Are you asking people, what did you think of this video, or is it B, just how many people have looked at the video versus clicked, and how far they've gone through? I don't know if you get that data or not.
I don't really pay attention to that. I mean, not because I don't think it's valuable, but just because it's so much for me to intake and then try to do something.
And which part when you don't
the length of watch of anything like that. I mean, I think all info and all data is valuable, so attention is a big thing. But it's interesting. At this point, if I went to work for a different company that wasn't Failla, where I intimately knew the processes, the customers, and like the swells of business we generally have, I might have a different answer. But because it's a company that I'm really, really connected with, you kind of know when you're going to have like the barn burner sales versus the kind of like, all right, this one we'll see what happens. We have the wine, but who's going to be excited about it kind of thing. Mm-hmm. That doesn't change the energy that we put out in terms of our marketing or our communication or anything like that. It's just like with Kiefer Madness, we knew that's going to be a hit. People love that vineyard. It was the first Pinot and Chard vineyard. We've had vintages going back to the early days, 1998, and people are curious about that. Yeah, and a lot of them have come to the winery and tried older vintages, and they're like, I'm astounded by how good this is. Yeah, I can't believe it. So we know that's going to be big. We do another one with the Hirsch Vineyard that we used to work with. That's the October release that we'll do. So we always we have an expectation for more excitement around those, just because they're very popular vineyards for people in the know, and even for people not in the know. It's like a chance for them to kind of become so. Yeah. And then the spring and fall release, just because again we've somewhat conditioned our customers to expect those to be okay. Got to get your hands on the new stuff. It's all very small production, very naturally, very hands-off winemaking, and so we have a really good story in that sense too. I don't know if I answered your question appropriately or not.
Well, I mean, yeah, to get in more detail on because I asked a multi-part question, but in terms of the content, when you're doing something and you've got Aaron in the vineyard, do you do? I see a lot of Aaron in the vineyard. I haven't seen a whole lot of production stuff. Yeah. And do you have people that like some more than others? I know everybody probably my guess is that everybody likes out in the field, right, in the vineyards.
Yep. Yeah. So we don't, and part of the reason for that, I think, is our they're going to kill me for saying this, but it's honest. I think they'd agree with me. Our production is really exciting, but it's a really like limited time frame. And so the chance we have to capture content and turn it into something, and so this is what I was joking about earlier with like editing podcasts and things. People don't realize if you do a 1-minute video, it's probably 1 hour of editing, and that's a lot. And that's if you have a good processor, right, and a good graphics card and all that thing. And so like when it comes to wine content, we just look at, okay, yes, we'll go out with our phone and take a quick video on the crush pad and see grapes being moved around, and that's super fun. But like to put something that's produced and polished together, it's just a time thing. Yeah. And so years ago when I had a staff of 7, because Napa was so much busier, I could break off and take 2 hours and like get all the content I wanted and then edit it at some point, maybe later on in my house. Now I just don't have that capacity. And so the videos with Aaron, they seem to be the thing that hits the best. That being said,
and he's the one out there just taking it, right? You're not there. He's just taking a quick video.
He's got a tripod and he just walks wherever he's at. Sometimes he's up in Tahoe.
And then he's like, "Hey, here we go." And then you take it and then you edit a little bit to a couple minutes, or how?
Honestly, I think I've edited one of his videos this entire time.
Oh, really?
He's so clear and clear-minded and solid when it comes to what he wants to say about certain things. Excuse me. I give him prompts. I give him suggestions for what we're marketing that week or what is coming up that we want him to hit on. But I mean, honest, there have been times when he'll either he or I, there will be maybe a communication gap. Like, oh, the what prompt was it this week? And I'll text him, and then 10 minutes later, the video's done. Mm-hmm. I mean, he's that good. I don't want to sound like I'm glazing him too much.
Yeah.
He really is. I mean, anybody that's ever been at the tasting room when he's been there or done a wine dinner when he's been there, the dude can talk. I mean, gift of gab like nobody would, better than any 6 people I know. Put it that way. So that's remarkably, or maybe irremarkably, pretty much all him. But with just some gentle prompting as far as like what we're
like a theme you said.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how often are you doing like by theme? You're like, hey, we need to talk about this, and how are you choosing the themes too?
Yeah. It depends. Sometimes we have customers who email. Sometimes it's just what people are asking us in the tasting room.
Okay,
we'll
that
talk,
makes sense.
Yeah, together as a group and like, hey, we're getting a lot of questions about this. Like a couple of weeks ago was about biodynamic farming and our approach to it. And sometimes we don't see as many anymore, but we have an email address that's set up. I think it's askaaron@faillawines.com, but people can just email. He monitors that and I monitor that.
Okay.
But sometimes people just have random questions, and sometimes they're questions we think will be beneficial to the community at large that we're trying to serve, and sometimes they're just like, okay, we don't need to talk to anybody but you about this question. Let's say. And so they're guided generally by where we think the year goes, and then also what our customers are saying, because you want to. I mean, what do they say about all great stand-ups? Is they're out there listening to their audience more than they're speaking to their audience.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Obviously we don't have the same kind of direct interaction, but
okay. And then you mentioned earlier SMS. So what percent of your audience do you have permission from them to text?
Sure.
How do you go about that? And
percentage-wise, I don't know. We get very few unsubscribes. We don't text people a ton. It's mostly like.
But when you say a ton, like, was it once a month, once a year?
Couple times a month if stuff is going on that we think, hey, you need to have attention on this. So, a lot of people, if they don't open their email, they'll appreciate a text because, like for the spring and fall releases, I have a customer who's a wonderful human being. I've interacted with him personally many, many times. But he missed an email, didn't order a wine he wanted. I sent a text. Oh my God, thank you. Logged in and got his wine. And so like you think they're opening the email, or even if they are, they might just be clicking it and not reading it. So the text is a great way, and people know this, but text is a great way to just go this, boom, done.
Okay.
And so we try not to, cudgel people with it, but great example, we did a wine dinner in a certain zip code. It was really easy to target and interact with people, the 30 people in that zip code. Sorry, back to your question. Percentage-wise, again, we get very few unsubscribes. I probably hyper-segment the text list more aggressively than I do the email list to people that are, ordering within the past couple of years, or at least interacting within the past couple of years, because they're going to be the most engaged via that medium. We use Red Chirp, which is probably like the wine industry standard at this point. We sold out a rosé because I sent a text message a few months ago. Hey guys, we have 20 cases of this left. Literally 4 hours later. And so,
which is also a good question too. It's like, what do you do for it almost sold out, and then what level?
Sure.
How many cases do you get down to where you say, hey, we need to send out an email, and then how do you determine email versus SMS?
Good question. I've been doing just kind of both. If it's the kind of thing where it's going to make it sound like I have favorites with our wine lineup, I absolutely do, though. So it's totally fair. There are some wines in our lineup that are darlings for our club and mailing list. And so, good example, the rosé is definitely going to become that, because now we're doing it all from estate fruit. So that was an easy one. Plus, summer was coming around the corner. So it's like, guys, if you want the crisp deliciousness to drink, you got to get it now. There are another few single vineyards that are 200 cases or fewer, where it's like, dude, if I'm down to 20 cases of those, everybody needs to know about it, because if you've been on the fence about it, like, they're going to be gone in a couple of days, maybe. So in those instances, I will. If they're items that have taken, 8 weeks to sell out of, there's obviously less enthusiasm for them. So those are the ones that the next time we work with that vintage or vineyard, try to recreate a different marketing element to generate more enthusiasm about them, whether that's included. Like, we routinely do not include scores. That said, I mean,
live and die by that.
Some people like scores. So, it's are we shooting ourselves in the foot by not doing it? Maybe, we'll see. And so how I'm approaching this fall release, which we're going to have happen in about 2 weeks here, is it'll just be sequential. Like, everybody's used to email, great, you're going to get the email. That same day, you're going to get one text message. Later on that week, our top probably 1,000 or 1,500 customers, whether that's by lifetime value or recent sales or what have you, they'll get a letter That'll be a little bit more involved. It'll include special invites to a few events, excuse me, that we're going to be doing in September, October. Just because I want to see how well print media does. We haven't done print in 14 years.
Oh, really?
And yeah, exactly. And so I'm like, I bet you there's a bunch of people on that mailing list that now email is where their junk mail goes, because it used to be where mail is.
Now, are you going to confirm those addresses too, or just mail out to everybody?
It'll be based on shipments. And
okay,
so if
you got the shipment.
Yeah, exactly.
Address,
so, and then I'll see how it does. If I if I send 1,500 out and 500 come back because of bad address, okay, that's a lot of people that moved. Then I should have done it that way. But I have a high amount of confidence. And again, we try to be really picky with our emails. And I think a surprise letter from us, if it's obviously we're trying to get you to buy wine, but if there are more marketing elements involved in it, that's always nice to see, as opposed to like, hey, give us your address, and then it's just one more interaction that they have if they're on the fence about, because it's always 50-50, right? Every time you send an email, they're going to quit or they're going to maintain. And so I just look at it and go, do I want to burn a potential series of quits to just get an address that I think I already have? So that's where my mind is with it. But again, if I'm dealing with 100,000 people, totally different situation. But yeah, so it'll be a little bit more sequential. We hit the emails a little harder during the open release period, just because, as I mentioned, you do get those subsequent reopens. I was consulting for a company during the COVID years who they were just releasing a brand new product. They never released it before. They sent an email like once about it, and I was like, you need to do more than that. And you obviously you got to target it, but
because otherwise the subscriber forgets that they even subscribed.
Well, exactly. Well, that's the thing they say, right? It takes 7 to 10 interactions before the people, it sets in their brain like, oh, I need to do something about this. And through doing that, we sold out of that new SKU in, I don't know, 3 or 4 weeks, whatever it was. And they're like, oh, we didn't even. I'm like, email's a good thing. And so you touched on this a little bit. I forget what the topic was, but hopefully this kind of sets the tone for like my entirety of my philosophy, just about emails and marketing in general. I expressed a concern a moment ago about when we do email, what people generally do. I don't, as a whole, let that really guide me. The way I see it is there's this old story from the Old Testament about Gideon and his army of 10,000 men. Do you remember that one? Yeah, so he brings people to the water. 9,700 of them bend over, put down their weapons, and lap water up. And obviously, those are the bad soldiers, so he gets rid of them. So he gets down to 300. I look at it that way. I'd rather have my 300 like heavy hitters, in the sense of customer engagement, than the 9,700 lose. Like, if you don't want to be a part of what we're doing, that's totally fine. Like, I don't want to market. I don't want to waste either of our times. Or have an arbitrary number of percentage of opens, clicks, or whatever if it doesn't mean anything. So if you're going to exit, fine. I just think I don't want to waste. If I'm back to that address thing, if I have 1,500, 2,000 people I'm trying to send out to, I'm going to get 100 or 200 replies, and some of them are going to just be time sucks for me. That's the other element too, is I have to manage my time. And so just from an efficiency standpoint, I'm more willing to take that risk. So what I'm getting at is, during that open allocation period, when we are emailing people maybe 3 times a week for a month or so, it's mostly who didn't open. We know they're going to open, but they just need that like constant reminder, especially with so many different wineries out there these days. So everybody's releasing at the same time. So you need to kind of jockey for your position.
April, September. I know that.
Exactly.
And then you mentioned something earlier about, so you have this list of people that haven't interacted with you in years and years and years. You still don't delete those people. You just have that as and marked in their file, like, and then every once in a while you'll try to get them back. If you have something big going on, or
so like the main releases we do, the spring and fall, they'll be a part of that. If we don't sell out of wines from the other releases, the big ones rather, then I might open it up to them too. But generally speaking, we just keep them because data is good to have and their history is good to have. I mean, this happened last October. We did the first Hirsch, we called it Hirsch Hysteria, release of all these back vintages of Hirsch. We had a guy place a $1,900 order, and our wines are not that expensive, by the way. I mean, comparatively speaking, but who hadn't ordered from us since 2008. But because we sent him that email and he was like, oh, that's interesting. What is this about? And he opened it up. He's like, oh, they still, they have all these vintages of Hirsch. And he's like, I didn't even know for some reason. And so I'm like, all right, well, there's nearly 2 Gs we never would have seen if we would had just dismissed him entirely. But
Yeah.
when it comes to where we put our energy and marketing drive on like the more routine basis, it's a much kind of more focused initiative.
Yeah. Okay, and back to SMS. Sorry, but I missed this question earlier. Sorry. But in terms of increasing that percent, do you send out? Because I haven't received any emails from you saying, "Hey, get on our SMS." I haven't received any.
No. And
so, have you thought about that, or why haven't you done that? Because SMS is more in your face and more reactive, and there's a lot of advantages to it.
It's a good question. I think I haven't because of my own dislike and disdain for being marketed to.
Yeah. I was going to say the same thing. I was going to use the word disdain for text messages.
Yeah. And it's really that. But I'm constantly like waking up and realizing like I am not my customer. And there is definitely room for growth in how I'm doing things or how we're doing things. Why we haven't is we just put it in, I think like a year and a half ago or something like that. So we're still figuring it out. It's still a totally...
But in your emails, are you mentioning anything standard like, hey...
I mean, in my email signature, it says you can text this number and it's highlighted. And that's mostly just because, I mean, this is actually what's been huge with that. Years ago, before massive text platforms existed, I would just hand my cell phone out to drivers and concierges and whatnot. And so, like, if we had a slow day, I could text them or they could text me, and it worked out great because you'd always get wonderful people coming through the door.
Oh, yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah, and just being available to those people too. Yeah. I mean, it happens every single weekend. Oh my God, these guys, the reservation got screwed up, or lunch is done early, or whatever it is. Are you guys available? And I could always be like, yes, because I'm not tied to the tasting room the way my colleagues. Just having those relationships was fantastic. And so now, on that note, I mean, we get tons of referrals that way. A lot of it is tied to my personal cell phone number, though, just because that's how I did it in the past. But now that we have an actual platform that allows us to do it in a more large scale way, I mean, total game changer. Yeah, absolute game changer. But as far as getting the word out, no, I haven't done anything like that. Probably should.
Yeah, because I was thinking some emails I get from wineries, they have everything. They talk about like 7 different things, and it sounds like you stay focused on a couple of just elements, and that's a conscious decision.
Yeah, and that's again my own we'll say vanity for lack of a better term right now, but it's when because I could open up my phone right now. Hold on, I do it. You do the morning, lunch, and evening thing. Let's just see. Yeah, so my personal email, I clear it out 3 times a day, but I've got 27 emails since I left the office, which was an hour ago or whatever it was, and so that's a lot. And I notice half the time when I am clearing it out, I'm not even looking at some of these. And so I'm kind of that way with just marketing in general.
Well, just subject line alone, you're just
exactly right. And you're just like, how do I even get on this list? Like, I don't want that. And so I'm just trying to be probably sensitive to a fault with how our customers are intaking our marketing too.
Yeah.
And I think how do I put it? If you go to Disneyland every week, it's not special. If you go once every couple of months or whatever, way more enjoyable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Disneyland's a bad example because it's just a what show. I'm still kind of figuring out what works for us and then what is best for our customers.
Yeah.
We may be underdoing it a little bit. But I will say, like, there has been 0 text campaigns that have gone out that haven't given us a positive response.
Okay, that's good.
Either financially or just communication-wise. We always sell lots of wine when we do it, but it's always been a net positive. Even if people, if there are people in our wine club that unsubscribe to text messages. They just don't want to get text. Fine, no problem. They're still buying wine from us. They're still interacting in another way.
It also depends on how they use their phone.
Yeah.
Everybody uses their phone devices differently. So getting back to email, so you said that example you gave, you get 27 emails in the last hour. So how much are you experimenting with subject lines or even, time of day sent?
Sure. Time of day, it's really easy to get lazy with MailChimp and do their suggested time of day.
Yeah.
Sometimes that time of day is 8 p.m.
Yeah.
And like, if I'm trying to sell something, nobody's on their, whatever at 8 p.m. going, oh yeah, I need to buy wine right now. It's like, no, that's not happening, generally speaking. At least not with our client base. With subject lines, what's funny is MailChimp has the like, will you want AI to generate your subject line suggestion for you?
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of clunky and not super helpful. And they use very like toothpaste commercial terms, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so I just really try to think hard when I send an email, like what I want it to be. And you'll probably notice a lot of mine are silly or just kind of pun related. But it's like, how do you break people's eyesight away from the routine of we're this company and we have this going on or this to sell. But then on the other hand, if everything is superlative, okay, well now you're just okay, it can't always be a fire sale, right? There has to be some kind of medium, and just with the volume of emails you're doing. So I have to admit, it stumps me sometimes. It's kind of a challenge, and so that in those moments I'll be like, okay, what's more important, that the email goes out or that I have the perfect subject line? Well, you want to be just kind of direct, and I honestly, with our customers at least, haven't noticed a huge drop off or increase either way. I will say I have had more. I don't know how many people precisely, but like it's in the dozens, if not like low hundred number of customers that have, oh, you're the guy that does the email. That's like, that was really funny. I was showing my wife, it was super funny. I'm like, oh yeah, it's like, all right, that's kind of nice. People are reading it, great. Because we try to incorporate humor, and our company is very serious and a very, I think, profound company in a lot of ways, especially with the impact that Aaron has made in the wine industry, with still being family owned and operated and moving into biodynamic farming away from conventional and all that. And so you can have this tendency to be always super serious. And so by, I think, injecting a little bit of humor and not like deprecation, self-deprecation, but just like, hey, it's wine. We're not trying to take it so seriously that like everything is hyper precious and this and that.
Yeah.
So we try to let that come through in the emails and the text. But I did have one. So like one way that's come out is in the past 4 mailers that I've sent out. We have like 10 wines we release per major release. And I've done like, okay, if Cormac McCarthy were to write a wine review, what would that sound like? And these, that's agonizing to do these, but I think they're fun. So you do a couple of paragraphs in his voice, or I did Dennis Miller for one too.
Mm-hmm.
And part of that is, you look at the age group of people and you think, okay, well, who was a comic at that time that a lot of people would at least know about, if not intimately know about? And, we get a lot of good responses from people, but I did have one guy, just send me the tasting notes. Like, all right, sorry, man. I'm just trying to have fun, because everybody does tasting notes.
Yeah.
Everybody does like almost the exact same thing. And I'm just like, dude, if I'm the customer and I'm reading the same thing from 100 different, it was the finest vintage we ever made.
Yeah.
We have 20% new French. Like, oh my God, okay, black, done. And so things like that, they help me creatively and emotionally perhaps too. But I like to think that they add value to what our customers are reading, because it's not the normal, right?
Yeah.
It's not but it's not like overdone either, where it's like, oh my God, okay, you really went for extra credit trying to impersonate all these writers, as opposed to like, okay, that was funny.
Yeah.
That was actually inspired. There was an old, oh God, what was it called? It's not there anymore, but it was an old social media platform. God, it was like Reddit-esque, but I'll forget it. Anyways, it was called Yelping with Cormac. And so it was if Cormac McCarthy wrote Yelp reviews.
Okay.
So that's what made me think of that. And then that turned into all the other things. But it's hilarious. He reviews Taco Bell and all these other Denny's. And just I don't know if you're familiar with his writing or not, but it's super funny.
Yeah.
Not funny, but like, anyways.
Okay, so we covered a lot, but also we've got a time limit right now. What else regarding email marketing didn't we discuss that's important?
I don't know. I think I've said just about our entire approach. Like with anything, I think quality is always going to be quantity. I think particularly in times of financial stress, a clearer and better message. I think a lot of times people hide behind the fact that they're selling wine. It's like, dude, you're a wine company. They know what you're trying to do. You're trying to extract their money via sales.
Yeah.
You're allowed to say that.
Yeah.
I think a lot of times we write all this, and myself included, probably overly florid or overly wordy prose just to get what could be done with fewer sentences. And so, it's a fight for attention, especially right now. I think, like, what's funny too is it's a lot of scuttle about how the wine industry is in hurting and all this, and it is. There's no doubt about that. It is, but I think the smaller companies, the family companies, the places that are like not shriveling up and doing nothing out of fear that they're engaging with their customers, like that's where you get the most sales, is the people that are always buying from you.
Yeah.
Like there's this stigma about wine club members visiting tasting rooms. And I'm like, dude, look at our wine club members when they come, they leave with tons of wine.
Yeah.
They're not just there for the free tasting. And I think if wine companies would engage with them more often, as opposed to being nervous about them leaving, it's like, dude, if they're gonna quit, they're gonna quit.
Yeah.
Like you have to be kind of fearless when it comes to, okay, well, I don't want to, piss this person off or this. It's like, no, they know if they've got the money to buy your wine. If they don't, would you rather have them quit before you charge it or quit after you charge it and then have to pay for the refund fee or whatever your interstitial bank fees are?
Yeah.
That actually costs you more money. So
Yeah.
would you rather know before? Yeah. So I just think an amount of like, think about your quality, think about your messaging, and then just being a little bit fearless when it comes to when and how you're getting that message out.
Yeah. Well, I think it's important because for me, what I found out about myself about a year ago, I was at a restaurant and I'm looking through the list, and I'm looking at these wines that I know, but also I'm choosing wines where I had a memory. Where I had in 1989, I was in Burgundy with my buddy Nick Ramkowski and a couple other guys. We had this amazing, Vincent Girardin, and it's on the list.
One of my favorite producers.
Yeah, it's like $100, and I'm buying it that yeah his Lower Chablis, or Village Wines. But I picked that just to bring back that memory.
Yep.
And I just wonder how many other people are doing that. So if they're coming back to you on a regular basis, that's a memory for you when they go there. And also when you give them the tasting notes, then they can be educated when they're opening the wine and pouring it for people to say, here's what your flavors you're getting, but I also had an amazing time with Geoff and Aaron there. And that's important, I think, for the wine industry to keep that core.
And I'll tell you this, I didn't bring this up, but it just clicked when you said that. The text messaging. A lot of times we get text messages. I got a text from a guy the other day who our entry-level Pinot Noir is at a hotel in Colorado, somewhere Aaron used to haunt.
Mm-hmm.
Small hotel, but like a really high-end hotel. And he's like, I walked in and the Failla wine is here. And he texted a picture of it to me. And it's that exact thing. I mean, that connection, I think we get so focused on trying to sell, which we need to do, that we miss out on the fact that this is ultimately a people interaction business, and wine is the medium through which that happens. Let's see, you just said such a perfect thing that I want to capitalize on that. Great example. So we've had this happen all the time. When I first came back in 2023, my second tasting was this dude who lives in Louisiana, hadn't been here for 10 years. Last time he paid 2 tasting fees. He was like 25 or something like that. And I saw him walking on, I'm like, you look super familiar. Have you been here before? Like total shot in the dark, but he looked familiar. I couldn't remember his name or anything. It's like, yeah, and actually you hosted us last time. We remember because you were having, something to do with this new girl you were dating, who's now Alex. So anyways, we connected over that, and it was a fun moment, but he had gotten into his career. He's mid-30s now. He had money to spend and bought, I think, a case and a half of wine. It wasn't because I remembered him, but I think we too often, from either an inbound or outbound sense, worry, did we get the big sale today? And I think there are tons of people out there right now that are, and there's always going to be money in America. So I don't worry that, oh God, the whole thing's going to collapse. I mean, if it does, you don't worry about wine anyways, right? But there is that arc of people that is making more money, and I think we have to do a better job of finding them, for one. But they do make those connections with your products. Yeah,
and also I think, and again, we're over on time, but the wine industry, what it has the advantage of over mix cocktails and CBD and everything else is it's with food.
Yeah,
and it complements food, and nobody, no other beverages can really say that, but wine complements food. I drink wine when I'm eating food all the time. Yep. So I think as long as we continue on that path, we're okay.
Well, and that's where it ties directly into culture. And to hit the nail on the head, I think Karen McNeil just spoke about this at the Napa Valley Hospitality Forum group 2 months ago, and she gave this very nice 20-minute or so speech about, especially now that America has a thriving wine culture and a wine society, we're no longer just the Puritan aspect of there's booze, let's drink as much as we can.
Yeah,
it's more no, this is integrated into what we do in daily life, and so that's the kind of thing that's worth fighting for and worth pushing for. And I really respected and appreciated her saying that. I think we're becoming more of a wine drinking nation too. Are we whittling down from the 10,000 to the 300 right now? Sure, but those people, to your point, that memory sears in their brain that they had a great time with you today, they're going to come back and purchase from you tomorrow when they have the means. Because nobody is in your tasting room by accident. Nobody is in your email list by accident.
Yeah.
Some people are going to come and some people are going to go, and it just has to be what it is. But like your core group of people, especially if you have a good product.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, Geoff, this has been great. I hope sharing your insights helped out people and people listening out there and watching this show, that they get a lot of insights from what you had to say.
Yeah,
So
nice
thank you very much.
My pleasure.
Thank you.